10 years ago, Jackson Lee stood inside a cold, hollow warehouse. No desks, no titles. Just two folding chairs, a legal pad, and a belief that character could build something stronger than capital. That day marked the birth of RUS Holdings, not with a grand opening or seed funding, but with sweat and silence. Built brick by brick with a kind of stubborn hope. He didn't chase headlines or investors. He chased integrity. The mission was never about becoming the biggest. It was about becoming the most trustworthy. He believed in people, their capacity to rise when given ownership, their drive to protect what they helped build, and for a while that belief paid off. One warehouse became 5, then 5 became 50. The company grew beyond the edges of his own fingerprints. Names appeared on rosters he didn't recognize. Facilities popped up in towns he'd never set foot in. Warehouse 47 was one of those places. Just a dot on a map nestled between two state lines. On paper, it was small and efficient, but in the echoes of silence and shadows of its audits, something didn't sit right. At first, the reports came in, vague complaints, strange inconsistencies. Then, just as quickly, they stopped. Not because things had improved, because the people filing them had vanished. Turnover surged. Audit reports arrived, technically clean but oddly delayed. Jackson flagged it, reviewed what he could. Nothing stuck. The numbers were right, but the feeling was wrong. So he visited, unannounced, alone, and when he walked in through the front door, no one flinched, no one greeted him. No one recognized the man who'd once hand-signed every check in their chain. The warehouse felt sterile, like a body without a heartbeat. The walls were gray, but not with paint, with silence. The workers moved like ghosts, efficient but joyless. Something was broken, but it had learned how to hide. That was the moment Jackson realized something more profound than mismanagement had taken root. This wasn't a personnel problem. It was cultural rot, a silent erosion of the values he'd poured into every training manual, every company mission. RUS wasn't supposed to be faceless, but here, it had become exactly that. So Jackson vanished. He removed his name from the boardroom, withdrew from press, and retreated from the image of the visionary CEO. Then, under the name Jay, he walked back into Warehouse 47. Not as a savior, but as a ghost. Middle-aged, overqualified, forgettable. His shoes were cheap, his cap low. No one asked where he'd come from, and that was exactly what he wanted. Because to see the truth of a place, he couldn't arrive with power. He had to arrive as someone invisible, someone they wouldn't lie to because they wouldn't think it mattered. This wasn't about testing employees. It was about testing the soul of his company. He needed to feel the culture as it truly was, not as his memos imagined it. Jay wasn't given a schedule. No gloves, no training, just a mop, a broken cart, and Brenda's sneer. "Figure it out or quit," she snapped. And so he did. Day after day he walked the corridors, each one reeking of bleach, sweat, and something worse, fear. No one showed him the exits. No one gave him a locker. Instead, they piled work onto his cart until it spilled, then blamed him for the mess. He never argued. He swept. He wiped. He hauled trash and insults in equal measure. But with every silent step he was gathering data. Not just audio, not just notes. Emotional data, behavioral patterns, cultural DNA. Because this wasn't just about the mistreatment of one man. It was about the values they'd lost. The rot wasn't hidden. It was thriving. In plain sight. And Jackson wasn't here to save this warehouse. He was here to burn out the disease infecting his legacy. Not with fire. With truth. What had they become without him? That question gnawed at Jackson as he pushed the mop through the same corridors he had once designed on blueprint paper. This warehouse, this idea, had been a piece of his dream. But standing here, on the floor among those who were unseen, it was clear. The dream had twisted into something cold. If there was anything left worth saving, it wouldn't be found through numbers on a report or polished leadership speeches. It had to be felt at the floor level, where the mop met tile, where the eyes lowered in exhaustion. On his first full shift, no one offered a welcome, no one explained the systems or showed him around. They shoved a mop into his hands and disappeared. No locker, no schedule, just scrawled notes in fading ink and missing tools that were never replaced. When he asked Brenda where he should begin, she didn't even look up from her phone. Figure it out, or don't. Your call. So he walked, alone, level by level, room by room. Every hallway smelled like bleach, sweat, and the kind of fatigue that seeps into the bones. In a corner near the restrooms, he found a crumbling, wet floor sign propped up on one broken leg. He set it down gently, knowing it was more symbolic than functional. Like everything else here, in the janitor's closet, supplies were almost non-existent. One cracked sponge, half a bottle of generic soap. And still, that night, Brenda changed his shift again, doubling his workload, back-to-back nights with no break, no partner, no grace. You're new, so you get the trash work, she barked, her voice ice-coated with threat. Unless you want to quit already. Jay stayed silent. He swept, he wiped, he hauled garbage until his shoulders ached and his skin stung. Each time he finished an area, someone accidentally spilled coffee or tipped over a bin. Mark once slipped a faulty bucket onto his cart, leaking, unstable. And when it spilled, he marked Jay down as careless on his clipboard. They didn't see him as a person. Just old guy, or the temp. Not even a name, not a face worth remembering. He wasn't called for team meetings. He didn't know when lunch started or ended. They joked behind his back, and sometimes right to his face. One man from shipping, tall, smug, sneered. So what prison you crawl out of? Laughter followed, cheap and cruel. Jay said nothing, just kept pushing his mop, but beneath the name badge on his chest, the microphone blinked, always live. Every insult, every command, every silent cruelty. They were all being logged. Not to punish individuals, that wasn't his mission. It was to map the rot, to expose how deeply the sickness had spread. At night, the building changed. It creaked like something wounded. Echoes stretched down cold, empty corridors like memories refusing to die. That's when Jay saw it. Activity that didn't belong. A shipment arriving after hours. No scanners, no logs. Still, someone signed for it. Hidden behind a row of folded chairs, Jay watched as Brenda handed over a clipboard to a man whose face remained in shadow. But Jay caught a whisper. Victor says, rush it, no delays. The infection wasn't just surface level. It was systemic. A rhythm pulsing through the walls. That night, Jay scrubbed harder, but not to clean, to uncover. It began with a clipboard left on a cart. 4 crates were listed as delivered. He had seen only 2. He checked the receiving logs. Nothing matched. Later, a loading bay marked cleared was still sealed shut. Too many inconsistencies, too frequent. He started seeing patterns, discrepancies in inventory, names missing from sign-in sheets, boxes labeled electronics arrived empty. Returns vanished before they were logged. When he asked Brenda about a missing case, she smiled like ice. If you can't keep up, maybe stop asking questions. Then she walked away like it was nothing. Jay began taking photos. Quietly. He recorded voices, logged every misstep, but he knew the closet wasn't safe. He tucked his growing logbook behind a vent panel, away from sight. Then, at 2:30 a.m., another shipment came. No lights, no records, Just a nod from Brenda and a whisper, "Victor wants it in tonight." No one had ever seen Victor, but his name carried weight like gravity. Supervisors stiffened when they heard it. Brenda's demeanor snapped from dismissive to razor-sharp after her mysterious phone calls. Jay started mapping the hierarchy of silence. Who followed whom? Who disappeared? 2 names vanished from the board midweek. No farewell. One had submitted a complaint, the other had flagged a shipping error. By morning, their lockers were cleared out like they never existed. Then came the real break. Jay caught Brenda on a call. No paperwork, no problem. He knows what to do. She didn't say his name, but Jay could feel her fear. Victor wasn't just a man. He was the shadow beneath the floorboards. And this warehouse wasn't chaotic by accident. It was engineered that way. Disorder was the disguise, confusion the defense. It kept questions down and eyes away. Still, not everyone was blind. One morning, he found a plain coffee cup sitting on his cart before sunrise. No lid, no sugar, still warm, no footsteps around. He didn't drink it. He just stared. It felt intentional. Then he saw her. Small frame, dark hoodie. She passed without a word, eyes quick, name tag flashing, Sarah. She didn't smile. She didn't slow. But the next morning, the cup was back. This time with a folded napkin beneath it. No message, just a perfect crease, a gesture that said, "You're not alone." Later that shift, in the break room, Leo sat nearby, older, weathered, quiet. They didn't speak, but when Leo accidentally dropped a broken barcode sticker, Jay caught it. That night, he scanned the torn sticker. It opened a hidden folder. Logs, dozens of them, mismatched names, phantom crates, no signatures. Every file a piece of a larger lie. Someone else had been tracking this, quietly, carefully, and they had just left him a breadcrumb. Jay responded. Before his next shift, he left a folded rag on Leo's bench. Inside, one copied page of the logbook, marked in red. Leo didn't say a word. But as he walked past, he paused. It was enough. Later that night, Sarah brushed by him at the loading dock, her voice barely a breath. "You ever notice? The night always hides the worst." Jay's answer wasn't spoken. He just nodded, heart beating heavier than any mop in his hands. The resistance had begun. "The shipments?" Sarah's voice was a whisper carried on nerves. Jay kept sweeping, slow and steady. No logs, no cameras. They just show up, she added, eyes scanning the hallway. Then silence. A beat. No one asks, and no one's allowed to. She turned and walked away fast, like she'd said too much. Jay didn't follow. He looked down at the floor, but inside something had shifted. His pulse no longer beat with exhaustion. It pounded with purpose. These weren't just workers afraid to speak. They were people who had tried and been silenced. And now someone was trying again, and this time Jay was there to listen. Later that night, he sat alone in the maintenance closet, a single dim bulb flickering above, casting crooked shadows across rusted tools and cracked tiles. He unclipped his badge, flipped it open. Behind it, a pinhole lens blinked, green. Still recording. Battery good. 2 days of footage captured. Voices, faces, patterns. This wasn't about a single act. This was about stitching a picture no one could tear apart. He threaded a mic under the collar seam of his shirt, tested it with a whisper. Crisp, clear. Near the stockroom vent, he placed a voice recorder beneath an old file crate, low and dusty. Another beneath the breakroom bench, taped beneath the cold metal slats. People talked casually there. They forgot that silence could have ears. Jay didn't want confrontations. He wanted consistency, habits. structure. Night after night, he recorded shifts, conversations, deliveries, every new page full of names, times, actions. He noted Brenda's shortcuts, Mark's adjustments, boxes that changed hands without signatures, inventory relabeled mid-shift. The chaos wasn't random. It was precise. Jay didn't react to the growing hostility. He let the silence hang. It made them bold. They gave him broken tools, blamed him when they failed. Brenda began marking him late even when he arrived early. Mark accused him of skipping steps he'd never been taught. It was a game designed to break him. But Jay didn't break. He nodded, accepted, endured. The quieter he became, the more they exposed. This wasn't about him. It never was. It was a pattern, a machine designed to reject anyone who saw too clearly. He moved slower now, not from fatigue, but from focus. He knew which security cameras were fake, which doors bypassed the system. Each shift mapped the layout better. Each breath sharpened his vision. They had trained him to be invisible, and that made him lethal. He moved like background noise, but he heard everything. They mistook silence for surrender. Jay knew silence was strategy, and when truth speaks from silence, it roars. "Leo?" "Front office." "Now?" Brenda's voice echoed off the walls. Jay looked up. Leo hesitated, then walked away. The warehouse went quiet. Radios cut to static. 10 minutes passed. Then Leo returned, face pale, hands clenched tight. "They said I stole a box of electronics," he muttered. "It's not even my section." Jay didn't respond, but inside, something boiled. Later, he reviewed the hallway feed, one he rerouted weeks ago. The footage was clear. The box never moved. Leo never touched it. Jay clipped the video, sent it through the internal ethics hotline. No message, no sender. By morning, the accusation vanished. Leo was back at work. No apology, no explanation, just silence. But the message had been sent, not just to Leo, but to anyone thinking of speaking up. That evening, Sarah passed Jay near the loading dock. "There was a guy, Miguel," she said without looking. "Hard worker, asked questions, real numbers, real proof. A week later, gone, no goodbye, moved to another site, no warning." Jay gave the smallest nod, just enough to say, "I hear you." That night, he found Leo in the stockroom. "You ever notice anything off about the shipments?" Jay asked. Leo didn't respond immediately. His hands kept moving, then slowed. "I noticed," he finally said. "Wrong vendors, wrong quantities, stuff that didn't belong. I tried to report it," Leo added. "They told me I was confused, then they cut my hours. Week later, they moved me." Jay nodded. No more words were needed. It was proof. They didn't just ignore the truth, they punished it. The next morning, Jay slipped behind Brenda's desk during a rare moment alone. No cameras, no witnesses. He placed a recorder behind the supply cabinet, another beneath a shelf near the exit. These weren't just recordings anymore. This was building a case. Later, Mark pulled him aside. "People say you're slow. You ask too many questions." Jay looked down. "I'm just trying to learn." Mark leaned in. "This place pushes back. Keep your head down." He walked off. Jay had already logged the time, the tone, the threat, every look, every voice, every lie. That night, Sarah whispered again, "They're not on the books, and no one's allowed to ask." Jay didn't sleep. He synced backups, highlighted patterns, traced timelines. What looked like chaos was coordination. It had structure. And now it had names. Leo, Miguel, Sarah. Each name a thread, each thread tightening. They tried to scare Leo, send a message, But what they'd really done was proved Jay right. This place didn't need oversight. It needed exposure. The lunchroom fell silent as a new presence entered, Victor. He didn't speak at first. Just footsteps. A coffee mug. He stirred slowly at the back, then spoke, loud enough for every ear. Files moved. Times don't match. Feels like there's a rat in the walls. Jay didn't flinch, kept chewing. Calm. Slow. Victor paused behind him, gaze heavy. Then walked out. No name, no accusation. Just a shadow dropped like a warning. Later, Brenda handed Jay a clipboard. Process this. Wrong codes, wrong shelves, no clearance. A trap. Jay followed enough to look compliant, then veered slightly off, just enough to be caught on both their cameras and his. Hours later, Mark cornered him. You mishandled freight. Again. Jay stayed silent, because the data was already safe, backed up, synced, duplicated. That night, Jay placed another lens behind the vent outside Office 3, another beneath the break table. Everything was recorded now, every word, every breath. They thought he'd fold. Jay wasn't cornered. He was setting the trap. The next morning, the intercom buzzed. Report to Office 3. Jay walked in. Victor behind the desk, Brenda near the door, Mark by the cabinet. Victor smiled. Cold, practiced. Let's talk about your mistakes. Jay looked confused. Vulnerable, but not broken. Boxes, logs, times. They threw accusations like knives. Jay swallowed. I'm just trying to do my job. But beneath that collar, the mic blinked green. And outside that office, the walls were finally listening. Victor leaned in, eyes narrowing with a predator's calm. This place doesn't run on rules. It runs on silence. His voice dropped even lower. You don't want to make enemies here. Jay didn't blink. He didn't breathe too deep, just nodded slowly. Behind him, Brenda smirked. Mark stood still, arms crossed, silently complicit. They thought they had cornered him, broken him, silenced him. But all they had done was reveal themselves and sealed their fate. That night, in a closet lit by one humming bulb, Jay reviewed the footage. Every word, every threat, clear. He filed it, labeled and backed up in triple redundancy. But then, a whisper caught his ear, something new. From inside the locked Office 3, voices Victor, Brenda, Mark. I've seen too much, too many questions. We end this quietly. Jay wasn't in the room, but his recorder was. They thought they were arranging a cleanup. They were actually signing their own confession. In the dark, Jay pressed a button hidden inside his badge. One blink. Then silence. The files uploaded, synced, distributed. The truth was already gone, beyond them. Safe. The next day, Jay entered the meeting room. Victor was waiting, arms crossed. Brenda by the window, Mark by the door, blocking the exit. On the table, one form. Clean, cold, final. Sign it, Victor said. Walk away. No headlines, no trouble. Jay picked up the paper. Didn't flinch. No cops, Brenda added, just leave. Jay's fingers hovered over the line. He tilted his head. And if I don't? Victor's smile flattened. Then we ruin you. Jay looked down, voice low. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just wanted to keep my job. Brenda scoffed. Mark's jaw tensed. Victor leaned forward. You think we don't know you've been watching, snooping? Jay nodded, eyes empty. I'm sorry. Brenda crossed her arms. Others tried that too. Jay paused. Others? Victor grinned. Leo, Karen, Miguel, gone zombie excluded, because they couldn't stop asking questions. Jay stayed silent. Let them speak. Each sentence another knot in their own noose. Victor shoved the paper forward. Sign it. Jay looked up at the wall clock. 3 seconds. He reached up. He adjusted his sleeve. Click. The lights dimmed. A screen behind them lit up. Of static. Benefice. Jackson Lee. Brenda's jaw dropped. Mark stumbled backward. Victor's face drained of color. That's not possible. On screen, Jackson's voice echoed. If you're watching this, you've already said too much. Panic rippled. Then came the audio, their audio. Brenda mocking workers, Mark forging logs, Victor threatening silence. Jay didn't speak, didn't blink. Victor shouted, "This is illegal." Jackson's recorded voice responded, "So were your actions." Brenda's hands shook. Mark turned toward the door. Jay stood. No rage, no triumph, just truth. The door opened. 2 officers entered, flanked by a man in a tailored coat. Corporate security. "Victor Hale," he said firmly. "You're under investigation." Granda Clark. Mark Hanley. "You're coming with us." No yelling, no resistance. Just silence. Victor stared at Jay, wide-eyed. Empty. Powerless. Jay stepped toward the door. Brenda looked up, not with hatred now, just fear. Mark didn't move. Jay paused, glanced back. No vengeance, just closure. And then he walked away. Not fast, not proud. It's just done. The man they overlooked had rewritten their ending. 1 week later, the staff gathered in the main hall. No whispers, no tension. At the front stood Jackson Lee. No suit, no podium, no security. His presence. He looked across the room. Some eyes lowered, others held his gaze. "The last few weeks," he said, "revealed more than fraud. They revealed character." No applause. Just quiet, the kind that means something. He turned toward the back. Sarah stood by a column, Leo near the supply rack. Neither spoke. Eyes unsure. To those who stayed honest, when no one was watching. "Thank you." He didn't say names. But Sarah's breath hitched. Leo blinked, looked away. Afterward, Jackson entered a side office. No cameras, just a table, 2 envelopes. He sat across from Sarah and Leo. "Thank you," he said, "for what you did when it mattered." Sarah whispered, "We didn't do much." Jackson smiled gently. "You did exactly enough." He handed them the envelopes. New roles, real titles, earned, not given. He never mentioned Jay. He didn't have to. At the door, he paused. "It wasn't the reports that told me the truth," he said. "It was you." Later that day, the warehouse felt different. Not louder, just lighter. Leo passed the break room. Someone picked up a dropped folder. No one asked, they just helped. Sarah saw records being double-checked. No rushing, no blame. The manager asked, "Why didn't we work like this before?" Leo smiled, though didn't answer. Kindness, long buried, was breathing again. In how people listened, in how they spoke to the janitor. Not out of duty, but out of decency. At a window, Jackson watched. No speech, no celebration. Just work. Honest work. He watched Leo guide a new hire. Sarah held the door for a tired technician. Small things, real things, big things. That's how rot ends. And how roots begin. He whispered to himself. Sometimes, to find the enemy, you have to become invisible. And to bring justice, You have to play a game they never see coming. Fade, not to black, but to clarity. If this story moved you, consider subscribing. It helps us bring you more stories like this. Quiet, powerful, human. Thank you for watching, and thank you for feeling.